We are recording this on the eve of a very closely contested election. It's a tight race between two candidates who represent very starkly different realities. The country at this moment feels a bit politically divided. And on top of it all, it's very possible that we won't know the outcome of this race on Tuesday night. So we are collectively in this uniquely uncomfortable moment of uncertainty about who's going to win, how that outcome is going to be perceived, and what our lives are going to look like going forward. And so, partly for my own mental health, I kind of wanted to zoom out a bit and facilitate a conversation about how we can meet this moment in a way that feels healthy, calm, grounded, how we can be here now, face what's happening, regardless of how it makes us feel, show up as conscious actors who engage by voting and doing other things, but sort of not get consumed by the emotional drama of it all. It's a very tricky and delicate balance, and I'm not finding a lot of productive conversations about that. And so I wanted to facilitate a chat with you, my friend, my mentor. We've worked together in a medicine space, and you're someone that I often turn to when I feel very lost and overwhelmed by what's happening in the world and really in my mind. So yeah, maybe we can start by having you do a brief introduction and talk about how you see this moment and the opportunity in this moment of uncertainty.
Thank you so very much, Lucy. I'm really honored to be here and really honored to have this conversation. We're at a time right now where there's so much emphasis on what's going to happen in the future, so much attention on what happened in the past. And for me, the experience of the future and the past all belong to the wonderful world of mind. And in my experience, through my personal life, through all the various experiences that I've gone through, all the trials and tribulations, I've discovered that when there's an overemphasis of our thoughts and our thinking, and of course, our thoughts and our thinking also include all the things that separate us, because that's the only place where separation exists. And when there's an overemphasis on that aspect of our life, the fullness of our life. Of course, so much anxiety, so much stress, so much fear, um, so so much anger, and such a profound, um, unfortunate invitation to again overlook the space of compassion, the option of compassion, overlook that space where we're not separate, overlook that, oh, wow, there is a well being. There is a fundamental well being that, regardless of what happens, whether I call it a catastrophe or I call it a victory, regardless of what happens, this is not touched. This is not affected and is all, and exists as a ever available uh, refuge for us to come to and turn to and during challenging times. So again, so happy to have this conversation and to do some exploring.
Well, for someone who might not be familiar with some of these concepts, how do you distinguish between what happens and what meaning our mind creates around that? I think that might be a good place to start.
Right. So, until we have some kind of instinctual recognition, some sense of, oh wow, maybe there's a part of me that isn't necessarily bound to the realm of thought or descriptions and words. So, for example, the space that I exist in words, we can say all the things about me. I'm a man, I'm a Latin man, my name is Ash, I'm a Gemini, a fire dragon, all these various descriptions. I like this kind of ice cream and I prefer to vacation here. You know, all these descriptions are wondrous and wonderful, and yet there is still something about me that remains undefinable, indescribable, something totally free. And having an awareness of that, we really start beginning to recognize, oh, wow, I thought that I was responding to an outside world and reacting to an outside world, blaming an outside world, hiding from an outside world, running towards an outside world, not noticing that the only thing I'm ever truly affected by is my own story, the story that I'm telling right now. And that's a really powerful option in this experience of being human. I have a poem called Human Beautiful because we're not just human beings or human becoming. There's also a humanness about us that is absolutely beautiful and free, regardless of all the wondrous conceptual frameworks we've made up over the centuries.
I'm curious though, how do you put that in like a practical
Right.
sphere, right? Like, let's just say a person wakes up, they're looking at the news, they're not
Mhm.
sure which way, this country is going to go. They're feeling a sense of anxiety. What's the invitation in that moment when you start to tense up, when you start to get worried about where things might go?
Right. Well, one of the things that I really love, and I'm very happy that meditation is a word that's pretty much in the collective mainstream right now. And it can be really powerful to take a vacation from our stories. When we're meditating, we're not indulging in our thoughts or our feelings or our sensations. We're pretty much relaxing into the sky-like nature of us, noticing and allowing whatever the weather of mind is doing to come and go, whatever the weather of our emotional bodies are, the sensations of our bodies, whether it be pain or whatever the feelings are, to be like weather to come and go, and to also recognize all things come and go all throughout history. This is not the first time we've been at the precipice of something that's going to alter the face of humanity. And in our willingness to find refuge in what's real as opposed to what's imagined, imagined everything belonging to the world of thought, innocent, has its place, practical, but when it comes to peace and well-being, that's not the place you're going to find it, beloved. That place is a little bit deeper. And so a moment of meditation, or I like to say a moment of allowing, moving from a fist consciousness, which is all our descriptions, all our thoughts, totally wound up in our identity, in time, in cause and effect, but to take a moment to just allow everything to be as it is. Allow our neighbor with the Trump sign, allow our neighbor with the Harris Wall sign, allow our neighbor with the RFK sign, allow our neighbor with whatever. In a moment, just, oh wow, allow. I'm going to allow my body, my internal landscape, and whatever I experience as my external landscape in this moment to just be as it is.
It's, you know, when I do this kind of work with you, I do experience a sense of spaciousness around what happens because it's easy to see something, right? Like candidate A wins, or the country voted in chocolate ice cream. I
Yeah.
hate chocolate ice cream. That means
Okay.
it's really, really bad for the country. We're all going to be eating chocolate ice cream, and you just watch how your mind creates all of these meanings around what happens. And
Yes.
then as a result of that, we're experiencing emotions, contraction, like reaction. It's a whole world of stuff happening inside when, but that's not necessarily reflective of what's happening on the outside. And so it's tricky, to get there and to
It's
catch your
so
mind.
tricky. Right. It's so tricky. And what I love is that, throughout history, there's so many beloveds, so many poets, so many artists, so many common everyday beloveds who have somehow caught, and who have somehow been met by some grace to recognize this option of not having to totally believe our minds. As you were saying, the different things about what could happen with, if we all vote on chocolate ice cream, we're all going to be toothless, we're all going to be overweight, we're all going to have diabetes and be a nation of diabetes. Our minds go to so many places. And then what happens biochemically, it's kind of like we're already experiencing living in that reality. And our bodies can't tell the difference between what's imagined and what's not. It's like, We're there. We're so there. Whatever it is we resist, it's a good clue that you're already experiencing it at some level, that resistance. So, in our stopping, in our opening, in our willingness, in our allowing, it kind of allows for all of that to settle. And then, what I love as the Buddhists speak to, where there's this awakened wisdom that's present and the sanity, the sobering stability of being. And what's so sweet is when we recognize that option, that's what starts to inform our lives. That's what, instead of being informed by the fear of what's going to come, of the horrible things that are going to unfold because of this vote on chocolate ice cream, we're all of a sudden at a space of well-being. And from that vantage point, oh my goodness, so many more options are available to us. And we're not looking at some external narrative to be the source of our well-being. We, in this moment, get to exist as well-being, get to exist as a space of solutions, as a space of creativity, as support, as, like let's say after a natural catastrophe like a hurricane or a it's amazing what happens in the vicinity of the neighbors, all of a sudden putting down everything. When all the Harris signs get blown away and the Trump signs get blown away and all of a sudden we're sharing the food that's in a refrigerator, making barbecues. Are you okay? Do you need blankets? Do you need, and it's a shame that it takes catastrophe sometimes to bring us to our humanity. But we are not limited to that option. There's enough information for us to find that humanity before the catastrophe gets here.
Well, it's interesting that you touched on that because one of the privileges that I've had in working as a CNN correspondent here in the United States is I've traveled all across the country. I've met people from all different walks of life, different political leanings, different jobs, different life experiences. And the really beautiful thing that I've discovered is, until you touch the subject of politics, you realize that you have so much more, we collectively have so much more in common with one another than our differences. We all want the basic needs met, right? To be able to provide for yourself, for your family, to have shelter, to feel a sense of belonging, to experience joy and love. Those are things that we all share in common. And I'm wondering what opportunity is there in this moment, a moment in which we know once the outcome of this election is called, there will be a large chunk of the population that is likely going to be disappointed with the result.
Mhm.
What's the invitation in maintaining a sense of unity at a time when it's going to be so easy to otherize each other?
Mhm. Right. I mean, it's so challenging, this invitation. Usually we want to engage in indulging in our stories. How did it happen? Why did it happen? Was it fixed? Was the election fixed? Was it this thing? Was it, so many ideas, or we want to avoid. I'm just not going to touch it. I'm not going to go there. It hurts too much. I'm going to watch all the Netflix series that I can. I'm going to eat all the chocolate ice cream I can. I'm going to just totally or we want to replace, whether it's denial, this didn't happen. No, this person is the one that won. I got to be positive, or the only way that, but the option to do nothing is so mature and so profound and immediately beneficial. The option to just stop and to surrender. So for example, another way of wording that, I love that prayer from the Bible, the Christian Bible. What's that prayer about? The serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I love how Byron Katie, who's one of my mentors and teachers, speaks of this thing called business. There's my business, there's others' business, and there's God's business. So in the context of the election, my business is who I'm voting for. Your business, who you're voting for. Who wins and what happens in the big stage of life, that's God's business. And so have a willingness to surrender to the bigger picture can be such a balm, a healing balm for the soul. And a healing balm for the soul allows us to relax enough to access the already present ocean of compassion that is also a part of our makeup. I like to say it's, this vast aware intelligence is just as everyday and ordinary as our earlobe, as our nose, as our molars. It's also a part of who we are. And when we come from that space, innocence it prevails. And it's like, of course, people vote for who they vote for. If I had the same worldview that you had, if I watched the same YouTube videos or read the same academic papers or had the same beliefs or religious beliefs, I would be voting in the same way as well. And it's so profound when we can recognize that, because then we can continue loving. And there's nothing more healing than loving.
I love that. And I kind of like to think of it as you can't control what happens in the bigger picture outside world, but you
Mm,
do have control over how you show up and who you are and
yes.
of the things that unfold. The other thing that I sometimes think about is if you think a certain way of being is right, you want to go out there and you want to convince everyone and you want to change the world. But through my own personal journey of, healing PTSD, I used to spend a lot of time covering conflict abroad and then started
Mm,
covering divisions here at home.
yeah.
So trying to like figure out how to stay sane and balanced in all of that. I've realized that there is so much power and so much profound change created on a micro scale in your own community, like with your family, with the
Mhm.
people that you interact with, humans that you see on the street, when you do take the time to sit with yourself and face the tough stuff with yourself and learn how to sit with the uncomfortable moments, it really is that change really does start within, I think.
It's so profound. And what I love about it, I call that the landing. Finally coming, allowing the soles of our feet to touch Mother Earth is when we're willing to go inside and not rely so much on the magic trick, the psychedelic trip of our minds, of our stories, of our projections. From that space, we no longer see our neighbor as our neighbor. We no longer see our loved ones as our loved ones. We're totally projecting a world of fear and uncertainty. And in that, our strategies are up. We turn into a saguaro cacti where we have all these pins, and it's like we're in defense mode. And to come back home, to actually land in the present moment, to go within, we sober up and we're no longer tripping. And then we get to see who's right before us. And then I love the word available. We're available. There's nothing more beautiful than an available, ordinary human being, and nothing more powerful. And and taking that time to go within really allows that to flourish.
We are in this moment where there are a lot of distractions, television, YouTube videos, podcasts, conversations being had that sort of amplify the us versus them mentality, the fear mentality, the pointing the finger at someone or something else to account for why you might feel like you don't belong or why you might feel like something is wrong. How do you fight against that? And maybe fight's the wrong word, but
Right,
how can we show up grounded at a time when it's so easy to fall into this pattern of like us
right.
versus them?
I so hear that, and it's such an important thing to explore and powerful question. In my experience, as soon as I started noticing the difference between what it's like to be here through my story. So what we don't notice is that we exist as this clear light. And then, there's this analogy of the clear light, and then there's the prism, and it's wondrous, faceted. As the clear light shines through the prism, it creates this refraction of light, this beautiful rainbow tapestry, the full spectrum of our humanity, we can say, this whole dance of phenomena. And when we can know the difference between, okay, in this moment, I'm totally experiencing life through the filter of my story. How do we know we experience life through the filter of my story? If there is an allegiance to separation, so identity. So if I'm the main character in this story and all the things that are going to affect me, and if the way you vote is going to ruin my life and the way I vote is going to ruin your life, or all the stories, that's you're totally in your mind. When you're in time, so you imagine a future. In this moment truly is, I'm not being poetic, I'm not being spiritual. I'd love for anyone in the whole universe to just take a moment to stop and say, oh wow, is there really such a thing as a second ago that doesn't exist solely as evidence of my mind, of my thoughts, or a future that's, no, we cannot. A future is only in the mind, a past is only in the mind. This moment is what's here. And so I notice, am I experiencing my life, this moment through the realm of identity, time, or cause and effect? How this is going to affect something else. If this person wins, I am going to be totally uh, at a loss and I'm going to move to Portugal. Or if that person wins, I'm going to move to Russia. Or, who knows all the different things that can come up. It's so profound to take a moment to stop and not have to know anything, to counterbalance all the things we know, because stress exists in all the things we know and all the things we're certain about and all the things that we've done the research on and all the statistics and all the polls and but to stop for a moment. All of that belongs to the realm of mind. Nothing wrong with it. But we have another option here, and that option is an open mind, a not having to know mind, no one to know moment, nothing to know moment. This, we access wisdom, we access the space of the creativity. When the artist is inspired, they're not coming from time. It's something you speak to any performer, any artist that is inspired and in the flow. They're instruments of something beyond themselves. And we get to experience that in our everyday lives, not just on stage, not just with a paintbrush, but in our everyday lives. And it's so profound, the option of not having to know, allowing all to be as it is, opening up, and a curiosity arises, a willingness to discover, how am I going to respond? Okay, I know how mind responds. It's usually out of fear. I love that acronym of false evidence appearing real as fear. I know how mind is. I get that. I've done it a million times. Let me get a little curious. How does this like open-hearted, already fulfilled space of being, how does this spacious, aware intelligence meet this particular moment, this unfolding, this result, this collective agreement, this experience? And we start exploring a whole other operating system from which we get to live from.
A lot of humans suffer from this feeling of I don't belong. And when you
Yeah.
find a space in which, you do belong, let's just say, for example, it's a
Yeah.
political party or political movement, um, but then the things you consume to stay plugged into that movement, whether it's rallies or, news or podcasts or conversations, um, they kind of amplify this sense of division. How does someone turn away from that without completely shutting out the world?
So powerful. Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's really profound to even know that there's an option to take a break. Again, it's kind of like noticing all the things we identify about ourselves and having the willingness to take a break from that identity, recognizing, okay, these are the things that I imagine I'm getting from this identity or from this particular group or from this particular culture, even. Um, and for a moment, is it possible to access those feelings just here, just by myself? And, it may be a little difficult, but if we're really honest and really willing to just stop and allow the uncomfortable feelings to come up, a lot of times we're moving into these experiences to avoid a sense of dread, to avoid a primal knot of suffering, to avoid a sense of despair or a fear of depression or a sadness, a grievance that we haven't allowed to have some fresh air yet. And and to have the willingness and the courage, I think it's so profound. I cannot wait for the moment that we, in our school systems, we're not only educating people in the realm of wondrous separation consciousness, where a tree is a tree and a dog is a dog, but there's also a simultaneous education in that which remains forever unnamed, that which remains forever undescribed. In that space, we don't have to put so much emphasis on our well-being in the space of belonging somewhere. We recognize that a belonging, that a well-being, that a sense of okayness is alive and well as our fundamental, truest, most intimate reality of who we are. And the experience of community, the experience of being a part of a favorite football team, or the part of a political experience, or is just that, just an experience.
The more we live on social media or TV screens, right,
Uh-huh.
it's easier to buy into this, illusion of separation. But
Yeah.
when you walk out on the street and you talk to your neighbors or you're face to face with other humans, I think it's a lot, it's a lot harder to be like, well, you're this, and that. And I think the opportunity,
Right.
I'm encouraging those that I know and love as well. Try to detach a little bit from like the big picture movie drama that's
Yeah.
out, and focus more on seeing the humanity in the people that you come across and seeing the similarities and training your mind to look for the commonalities. Because if we keep
Yes.
falling into this trap of division, it's going to get harder and harder to bridge that, to see each other as the same, and to be able to
Yeah.
work through issues together. On a more practical level, like how to stay sane in over the course of the next few days.
Yes.
For me, the number one thing, of course, is being like mindful of what you consume, not just in terms of food, but in
Hmm.
terms of media. It's harder for me because I'm a journalist. I have to, stay on
Right.
top of the news and know what's happening. But the way I try to, get around it is create some time when I wake up in the morning, before I go down the rabbit hole of the phone to, get into my body. I have a yoga mat right by my bed, before even turning the lights on. I get on there and try to do some breathing practices, some stretches, some movement. Time in nature when possible always
Yes.
really helps ground me. Community, spending time with friends and loved ones. I'm wondering what suggestions you might have for folks to practices that they could take on during this time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hearing you say this, I think it's so wonderful to, in a sense, normalize the value of radical self-care during these major transitions in our experience, individually and collectively. The collective is a group of individuals. So if we all take that responsibility to, as you were saying, go take walks in nature, go get a massage or massage your own feet, take a bath, take a hot shower, smell your favorite smells, eat nourishing foods, take a moment to meditate. Take a moment to pray, if praying or praising, giving thanks, feeling into the gratitude of what's here right now, feeling into the preciousness of this life that's here right now. All those options are always available to us. I love taking radical self-care of this body and also allowing it to have all the feelings, allowing it to have all the sensations. We get to be a safe space for ourselves. We get to be a safe space for our minds. We get to be a safe space for all the thoughts, for all the emotions, all the micro aggressions that might come up, all the tendencies to armor, all the places what we that we close up, all the places that we want to push out. We get to be a safe space to allow those innocent, I see them as these innocent, childlike expressions, these instinctual, animal, primal ways of interacting with life. Safe space for them to come and then to go. And it's so kind. I love the kindness of that. And then of course, once we're that for ourselves, it makes it that much easier for us to show up for others. And then so clearly recognize, oh, I've had that thought before. Oh, I've had that fear before. Oh, my body is closed up like that before. Oh, my face is turned red with rage before. I know that one. Oh, I'm so familiar. And again, in that space, we're not separate. We're existing as one consciousness, one loving intelligence, and we exist as the innocence of the absurdity of mind and all the unquestioned assumptions we still seem to like to navigate and explore.
Love that. I'm wondering if you might be able to, if you feel comfortable leading us in a really short meditation for, like
Yeah.
we could play this back in a moment when you are kind of overwhelmed by the news and everything that's happening.
Yay.
Like really ground and center for those of us who don't have a meditation practice.
Absolutely. So, one thing that I really love about meditating is that it's kind of like just allowing a human to be a human, So we're just sitting, we're just standing, we're just lying, we're just here, and we're allowing our minds to be human minds. So giving space to mind in this moment, so free, noticing, oh wow, yes, there's thoughts there. Oh wow, and yes, there's thoughts about those thoughts. As we allow, we're also turning up the volume of the space that is always meditating, this space that has never had a problem with mind, never attempted to change mind, never attempted to fix mind, but totally allowing mind to be the innocent weather that it is, the impermanence that it is. And again, I also invite you to, as to just being human, sitting here, to notice what emotions might be present. What is ebbing and flowing? What are the tides of these emotions? What are the swirls? What are the currents? And again, recognizing that we're not just the surface of water with emotions, but there's a bottomless depth of this ocean of being. And we notice the relationship that the unmoving stillness of the depths of this deep, deep water has with the innocent surface of the ripples, of the waves, of the currents, and just allowing the innocence of our emotions to come and go in their own time, even if it feels like it's not coming or going, just allowing it to be here and noticing whatever sensations are present in body, whatever it is we're feeling, the temperature of the atmosphere, a light breeze, the sense of gravity, the way our body naturally adjusts when it needs to adjust. Just noticing where our hands are, where our feet are, how weight is evenly distributed in this moment. Noticing all that we feel internally. And again, being a safe space, allowing these sensations to just be here, like a cloud or mist resting on a mountain range, giving full permission, noticing whatever sounds are present, whatever smells, whatever it is we're picking up with our senses. And again, being a safe space of welcome and allowing this moment to just be as it is. This moment that never existed before in this particular way and will never exist again in this particular way, giving it full permission to have an honorable life and an honorable undoing. And in this space, feeling into a warmth of gratitude, noticing the gratitude that doesn't have to be loud or jubilant. It could be a soft, quiet gratitude of whatever it is that we're supported by, noticing the unconditional support of this moment. I'm noticing this that I'm sitting on is a full expression of what I call unconditional love. Unconditional love doesn't have to be so abstract. It can be as practical as the chair we're sitting on, as the breath we're taking. Noticing all that's coming together for this moment to be as it is, all the planets somehow holding our planet in its orbit, all the galaxies, our internal universes allowing every atomic sun to be as it is, the external universal celestial bodies allowing giant fireballs to be as they are. Noticing that there's no limit to what can be welcomed. Noticing that in this space, the whole of humanity can be welcomed. The innocence of whatever trend of consciousness we're exploring, whatever trend of consciousness seems outdated, whatever trend of consciousness appears to be the one we're finally moving into. And again, not needing to rush humanity, not needing to rush planet Earth, not needing to rush anything, giving everything, being a safe space of support and love. This is the space where we recognize we get to exist as a loving sun of awareness, of kindness. A sweet space where all gets to flourish. And all gets to fall back into the nothingness from which it has come. And from the space of gratitude, we feel into just the innocence of everyone doing the best they can, depending on the worlds they live in, depending on the thoughts they live in, depending on the stories they live in, the fears they have, the unaddressed trauma, the discomfort, the unmet discomfort that then innocently gets displaced. Noticing the innocent mechanism of mind, forever needing something to run from, something to blame, a sense of separation to continue to attempt to justify its existence. So innocent. And of course, how that plays itself out on the world stage. Noticing, so innocent. We know better. We do better when we know better. And most of us innocently just don't know better yet. We don't know that there's the option to not have to believe our thoughts. We don't know that there's the option to not have to see other as other. We don't know that there's the option to recognize, oh, wow, peace is here. We don't need to wage war in order for peace to exist. If we stop, the peace that is permeates all technologies of war. And it's such a sweet option. This meditation is always available. This option to stop, because your very existence is meditation. Your very existence is a bottomless calm, a peace that truly passive understanding. And I acknowledge this peace in the heart of everyone on the planet, every world leader, future world leaders, the world leaders that have come and gone, all the citizens, all the mothers and fathers, all the bakers and candlestick makers, everyone on the planet. This core of light is present, and truly the biggest part that can never be covered, no matter how many pins we put on ourselves, or hats, or how many flags we wave, or whatever uh, tone of wheat our skin is. So, so present, this light, this love. So I so thank you for this invitation to share.
Thank you so much, Ash. I love this conversation. I love, I think what I'm taking away from this is the importance, first of all, of nourishing oneself,
Yes.
being in your body, feeling the emotions that come up, whether it's, through meditation or maybe screaming into a pillow to process it and get it out and, get it through. Nourish yourself so that you can be present for what happens, and to really keep in mind that everyone is just doing their best based on the information that they have.
When we recognize that, just because we notice that everyone's doing their best, again, it allows us to be in a space of relaxed ease and allows us to be in a space of not attempting to change people's minds, but to be a curious invitation in our conversations, in our daily lives, just exploring this grand experiment called human life. And to really, I just really encourage everyone to, in the piece, recognize that courage is also present, and your willingness to speak up also present. Your willingness to invite a neighbor who may see things totally different to lunch is present. Your willingness to create art and music that may invite different perspectives present. And it's a real empowered state, this space of restful peace. It's not passive. It's not do whatever you wish. It's clear and present and available to show up as benefit. It's beneficial by nature. And so, again, just encouraging that, and so grateful for this conversation.
There's a Ram Dass quote I wanted to
Uh-huh.
which
Which one is it?
to be effective agents for social change, we have to start with ourselves. First, we have to work on ourselves until we can be in the world without being automatically reactive. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. It's
Yes.
of openness, so that you can
Right.
take in what's happening, but then
Yes.
consciously act rather than, be a victim or react.
Right. So profound. Yeah. It's a sweet option that more and more of us are recognizing. Yeah. So, yay, humanity.
Thank you. Yay.
Thank you so much. My name is Ash Ruiz. I am, I guess it ends there. I am.
Um,
That's the funniest thing. My name is Ash Ruiz. I am a singer, songwriter, poet, one who loves. I am someone who's gotten really curious with the nature of mind. And in getting curious with the nature of mind, I've also recognized that there's something closer than mind. And so everything about my life, every song, every poem, every event, every item of clothing, every conversation I've recognized is completely been claimed by this that is beyond, closer, transcends separation, with a sweet invitation to notice the fullness of now, the loving presence of now, and the peace that is, regardless of circumstance.